My guest today was once a financial advisor and real estate investor who now dedicates his time to being an advocate in the health and wellness industry. As a former athlete, his commitment to training was always a big part of his lifestyle. And so when my guest lost his mother in 2002, he took everything he knew about training and wellness and chose a path where he could help others overcome illnesses and have a life rich in wellness. Now involved in several business ventures, my guest devotes his time to building his highly successful worldwide brand, TITUS Unlimited, which includes unlimited supplements, an all-natural and high-quality supplement products line. Having become a social media wellness icon, my guest is a sought-after expert, advisor, coach, trainer, and motivator, and has also had a weekly Fitness Friday segment on WTVJ NBC 6 in the Mix, a lifestyle show in Miami, Florida, along with frequent guest appearances on other major TV and radio shows and podcasts. He offers educational and life-changing advice for healthy living, fitness, biohacking, and overall wellness on a daily basis. In this episode, we talk about ways we can approach our diet for success, how to build strength for women, and went down rabbit holes I didn't expect. Get your notepads ready, folks, because there are so many inspirational quotes and tips you're going to want to write down. Enjoy the episode. Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining another episode of the Skin I'm In podcast. I'm your host, Chanel, and this is a place where women can tune in to gain peace through clarity, purpose through inspiration, and the permission to be themselves through the stories of other women. If you're enjoying these episodes so far, click the like, share, and subscribe button so that more women like you can be positively impacted by the stories in this podcast. Welcome to the Skin I'm In podcast, Titus. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, Chanel.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I've really been looking forward to this conversation because some of the things you said when we last caught up have been sitting with me. And hopefully we'll have the time to go through some of those things today because I'd love to unpack them with you. But let's start with how you went from being a financial advisor and a real estate investor to being a social media wellness icon. Like, how does that happen?
It actually all happened by accident. I'm not, uh, naturally, I'm not a person that likes being in front of a camera.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that I hate taking pictures. I don't necessarily like being on camera. However, I always say success belongs to those who recognize opportunity before it becomes obvious. And one of my daughters posted a picture of me, and that picture went viral. And I had been helping people with their health because when I left the financial services arena, I had different business ventures and stuff going, and but I had already changed my health around. So people started asking me, and people would ask me about what I was doing, what was the key, and I was helping people, although not as a business or not as just people who were asking. And I mean, case in point, I would show up at the gym sometimes, and literally I would have, I think one time the most I had 11 people waiting there for me just to work out with me. I would just let people work out with me. And and so when the opportunity presented itself and I saw the power that social media had, I looked into it a little bit more, and after a few people convinced me that I should do it, that's how it got started. So it was all by accident, actually. It was never my intent. If somebody would have asked me in 2016, or 2015, what do you think you'll be doing in 10 years? This would not have been it.
Well, I mean, how did you get into training in the first place? Because you were an athlete, right? Is that athlete in terms of someone who's like a physique athlete, or
No,
were
no,
you
no.
in an actual
I was a
sport?
sport athlete. So I played
Okay.
basketball my whole life, and
Okay.
then after that, I used to lift weights, so I kept myself in shape. But during that period of time, you're younger, and I was, it's just a performance athlete. So I really didn't focus much on my diet because, you're young, you can just do whatever you want. And so even when we're in the gym, I was just lifting, so I was very strong, very big guy. But as far as my actual health and understanding of food and what food does, I didn't really delve into that until after the death of my mother.
Mm.
Right.
And so what happened then? Like what changed for you in terms of what you were eating, how you looked at diet? Did you go down rabbit holes?
Yeah.
How
Well,
did you get into that mindset?
when my mother passed away, in my opinion, my mother's a very healthy person, very health conscious. She always used to talk to me about my health. And so it raised my alarm bells to say, well, wait a minute, if she can succumb to this, I need to pay better attention and then take a look at what it is that she was doing and where the mistakes came in. And so if I have any chance of avoiding this, I need to take this seriously. And as I started to go down the rabbit hole and educate myself, not about food, not just about food, but the food industry, the health industry, how it started, who started it, when the changes happened, why this wasn't taught, and why do people not know this? And I just kept going further and further down the rabbit hole, and then you find out quite a bit. You find out, my dad used to say, in order to be educated, you can't know a lot about one thing. You now have to know a lot about a lot. And there's another quote that goes along with that he used to say, never know nothing about the same thing twice. So if you have both of those quotes working in your head, never know nothing about the same thing twice, and in order to be educated, you have to know a lot about a lot, and then you have an inquisitive mind and you start reading, well, it goes into a lot of things. It goes into just about everything that you touch, and that's how you become, you know, more knowledgeable, I would say. I don't like to call myself an expert at anything, but definitely more knowledgeable and informed about a particular thing.
And so when you started going down those rabbit holes, what was your thinking? Because I've been down there myself, and I just remember being like, "What in the world? Who sold us this, and why?" So, what was your thought process when you were finding out the things you were finding out?
Well, one of the first things you have to realize is the things you've told yourself, the things you've been programmed to think. So one of the first things I realized was um, part of the reason why a lot of people are unhealthy is because of the lies that that are holding them hostage, the lies that hold them in a certain place, the misguided notion, first of all, that your healthcare company, the pharmaceutical company, cares about your health. They don't. They care about profits. And so once you understand that they care about profit, this is actually a post that I'm actually going to make later on today, and it clearly says depression is a business, cancer is a business, diabetes is a business, hypertension is a business, and none of those businesses make a profit if you are healthy or cured. The moment you actually grasp that, then you look at things differently, and when you change your perspective on things, you see things a lot clearer. You see how the food industry feeds the drug industry. You see the correlation between, especially when you start to go back and say, well, wait a minute, when did the food industry change? Well, it changed back in the 80s when a lot of the tobacco companies were getting shut down, and they went and bought the food agencies, and then the same scientists that made tobacco very addictive, they put their expertise to work to make food addictive. And then when you start to understand that, and then you look and see, okay, but what happened with the government? When you see the government nutritional guidelines change, when you see them allowing so many different additives and preservatives, when you see the fact that 80% of all of the people in government take contributions from the very same food and drug companies, right? So that allows them to have free reign and do business. When you look at all the media outlets, 75% of their ad revenue comes from food and drug companies. And even they are not even in the moral position to comment or to say anything because their livelihood depends on that. When you look at the FDA budget in the United States and realize that a large portion of the FDA budget is paid by the very same people they're supposed to be policing. then you say, ah, okay, well, now this makes sense.
There are so many people who are resistant to this thought process, though. I've had conversations with some people, and they're like, surely, the government and everyone's not all conspiring to make us sick. I'm like, well, actually, you'd be surprised that it might not be conspiring, but as you said, it's a business model. And I mean, hospitals don't exist unless there's surgeries. Cosmetic surgery places don't exist unless women are really insecure about how they look. Makeup companies don't exist unless women were not insecure about how they look. Food companies would, like all the business models that you think of that we rely on every single day, they're all there to make money at the end of it. They're not there to just, do us a solid and a favor. Do you find that you come up with people who do resist when you talk about things like this?
Well, here's the thing, and once again, there's the quote: "In order for the truth to set you free, you have to first figure out what lie is holding you hostage." Now, what you
Mm.
cannot do is you cannot combat someone who just doesn't want to see the obvious. However, if someone wants to see the obvious, because once again, the things I just mentioned, right? You use the word thought process. It's not a thought process, it's the realization of a fact, is sitting there and looking at the fact. Is it true that the tobacco companies bought the food companies? Yes. Is it true that they transferred their scientists from the tobacco companies to the food companies? Yes. Is it true that after they got there, they started to engineer food, adding things like MSG and other additives in it to make it more addictive? Yes. All these things are yes, yes, yes. Okay, the next thing is it true that your pharmaceutical companies, right, do not make a single drug that cures any chronic disease? Yes. They do not cure disease, they manage disease. Is it true that these are for profit agencies? Yes. If you're familiar with the word fiduciary duty, that means that they have a duty to their shareholders to maximize profits. Is that true? Yes. Okay. So now, if they have the opportunity to cure your diabetes, the high blood pressure, are they legally bound to do that? No, they're not. What are they actually legally bound to do? They're legally bound to turn a profit for their shareholders. That is their fiduciary duty. That is their job. And so they will do everything in their power to do that. So every year when we hear about the different drug companies, right? You're never hearing a drug company that's making, because right now, let's say diabetes is a $110 billion business. Diabetes drug companies and what have you, and hospital organizations are not getting together this year and saying, hey guys, that 110 we made last year, right? We have to figure out a way to drop that to 55. No, they're not doing that. They're saying, how can we get it to 150? And the only way for them to do that is for you to be sick. That's it.
It's a little depressing. And at the same time, I still look at stuff like this as an opportunity for people to be able to gain knowledge that our ancestors had about how to eat with the seasons, how to eat clean. So when you think of what you're telling people, I joined one of your lives the other day. And it was really interesting to see the questions that people were asking you. And someone asked you about juice fasting and all this kind of stuff. And so what kind of questions do you get from people about what to eat, and what are you telling them in terms of, I mean, I anticipate a lot of women would come to you and ask you about weight loss. It's probably the highest ticket thing that women ask you about. Would that be correct?
It is very popular, yes.
So then what diets, well, I should, I don't even believe in diets, so I'm going to reframe that. What way of eating or lifestyle changes would you suggest to some of the listeners if they are wanting to start off healthier this year?
Okay, very simple. Um, like I said, I checked the history of this whole thing, and we saw a shift in food, health awareness, and everything after maybe the 1920s. Okay, so very simple. If the food did not exist in the form that you're eating it in the year 1900, so 124 years ago, if that food did not exist in that form, right, don't eat it. It's very simple. If it did not exist in that form, in that manner, do not eat it. So what does that leave you to eat? Grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, pasture-raised eggs, um, whatever game meat that is just natural from nature, organic fruits, organic vegetables, clean water. If 95% of your diet is based on those things, you'll be doing just fine. But what does that cancel out? That cancels out 95% of things in your supermarket.
Literally,
Yeah.
yeah.
All your boxed and packaged stuff, gone. All your things of convenience, gone. But you have a whole host of things to eat. Like for instance, today, what did I eat today? I have eaten um, 3 cups of berries, 2 eggs, half an avocado. All right. How did I eat it? I put it in a smoothie. The only thing that is new that I put in there was some plant-based protein. That's it. I blended it with water and some aronia berries,
What are
which
aronia
basically
berries?
aronia berries, also known as chokeberries, is one of the highest antioxidant foods you can find. So on the scale of antioxidants, the only thing that rivals it is organic cacao. So, for instance, let's assign a number. Let's say if blueberries, on a scale of 1 to 100, aronia berries would be 100, blueberries would be like at 60. It has that much more antioxidants than blueberries. And it's excellent
Gee
for your
whiz.
skin and everything like that. Yep, aronia berries.
I'm in there's a crunchy women's group on Facebook, and you get a lot of women asking about skincare stuff, right? Like, what can I use for wrinkles? And I'm like, nothing, just age gracefully, like, let it go. But I get that a lot of women struggle with that, right? And so, one of the things that I feel that feels that it resonates with me and intuitively just feels aligned to, you know, I don't know, my belief system or just something that I feel like I just know is that there's nothing you can do from the outside to really get rid of wrinkles because it's a natural part of aging. But I really believe that you can do that from the inside, and that is with food. I recently took a course in food as medicine, and some of the things that we learned about food that you can have and herbs and spices and things like that that can really help all your organs to function optimally and in the best way possible. What are some of your favorite things that you eat, whether it be berries or herbs or whatever, that you feel like make you feel more energetic, more able to get up and get going in the mornings to tackle your day? What are some of your favorite things?
Well, I will tell you this, as far as things that can help with wrinkles, there are a couple of things you can do externally. Number
Oh,
one,
okay, tell me.
yeah, very simple. Wake up in the morning, right? And put your face in cold water.
Okay.
Tightens your skin. Okay.
Like
Um, Something else
for the
that will
day
help.
or
It'll, if you're doing that religiously every morning, it will literally tighten your skin because
interesting.
any
Okay.
extreme temperature on your skin, right, increases blood flow. So saunas also will help to reduce wrinkles. Why? Because saunas, the heat will encourage more circulation, which then causes your body to produce more collagen. Because what happens to us as we age is over the years we steadily lose collagen if we're not doing certain things to help collagen, build collagen up. Once again, sauna, cold, also exfoliating. Exfoliating will help your body produce more collagen using things like sugar scrubs and or sugar scrubs with lemon and or honey. That also will help your body produce more collagen, but that's exterior. And then you can do all the interior things like cacao powder, aronia berries, blueberries, and even something else that's really good for the skin to help tighten, lemon with turmeric, right? Not only does it remove dark spots and stuff, but it also helps to tighten your skin. So there's quite a few things you can do externally, but most of those things are not going to be chemicals. All right. And that's where a lot of people are always looking for the chemicals and stuff. But there's a lot of things you can do naturally. Once again, like I said, um, if some people don't like to put their face in a bowl of water, boil of ice water, get you a towel, put that towel in some water, put it in the freezer for about 5 minutes, right? And then lay it on your face. They even have masks now, right? But that will help to tighten up your skin and tighten up your pores.
But this has to be in conjunction with a good, clean diet, right? You can't be eating takeaway every single day and
No,
ice bathing your face.
no, because yes, it would be working, but then you also have work. You have something. Your bad diet is working against you because your bad diet is producing oxidation and all these things like that. So no, you don't want to do that. But yeah,
We spoke last time about strength training, and I had said to you, that this podcast is predominantly for women. I think it's like 90% women listen to this podcast, and they're aged between 35 and 45. And it's that age bracket that things like perimenopausal symptoms start, the muscle to fat ratio starts to decrease. So that strength training piece is really important for women in this age group that are getting into the, to 40 and above. What do you think are the best, in your experience, exercises that women can do to help strength train, whether it's in a gym or not in a gym? Are there specific areas that, I think we were talking about the major muscle groups like legs and things like that, to be training those. Is that what you would suggest for anyone listening who wants to start building their strength?
yeah. I mean, well, one of the first things I would tell any woman: stop being afraid to build muscle. All right. Stop being afraid to lift heavy. I see a lot of women in the gym, they're doing the 5 pound dumbbells. Sweetheart, you're not going to become Ronnie Coleman. Okay. You just don't have the testosterone
It's
to
so
do
silly. Yeah.
it. Well, but it's a real fear because what happens is that they look on the internet and they see some of these women who are kind of big, but what they don't realize is in order for that woman to have that excess amount of muscle, she took testosterone. If you're not taking testosterone, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is you'll get a lot stronger and you'll get lean, you'll get fit, but you won't get very big. Why? Because you just don't have that hormone. At least most women don't have that hormone. So there's limits to how much muscle you're going to put on. All right. Um, the thing about these days when people start talking about menopause and perimenopause and all those things like that, we have to also understand that industries program you to believe things, right? And many of the issues that people are having with their hormones, especially in the Western world and Western influenced countries, stems from your food. There's a lot of things that you're ingesting on a daily basis. Those things are endocrine disruptors. If you were to clean your diet and actually fix those things, half of the issues that people are talking about, they wouldn't have. When it comes down to training, right? One of the things I recommend, like I said, up the weights a little bit and drastically up your rep range. Stop doing the regular 3 sets of 10. Push your body to do higher reps with higher weight. Because what does that do? When you train to failure, that releases human growth hormone. And when that human growth hormone releases, guess what? It helps to not only balance your hormones, get rid of body fat, but what does it also do to that youthful look? It improves everything. One particular exercise that will help you tremendously is sprinting. Sprinting about 2 or 3 times a week. And what does that really mean? Go out there, get a good warm up, and you want to get about 4 to 5 all out sprints. And from, anywhere between 40 to 60 yards, 4 to 5 all out sprints. That will do more for your youthfulness, your hormonal balance, your weight loss, and everything, even sleep, than anything. There's one quote I always tell people. People always think that when you get older, your hormones change, right? And that's not true, okay? Your hormones change, right? Well, you get older when you allow your hormones to change. But your hormone levels don't have to change because there are so many things that we can do that we know now that we have control over, from taking more antioxidant rich foods, from exercising to failure, from restricting the amount of things like alcohol and sugar that lower and mess with our hormonal balance, from reducing the amount of exposure we have to a lot of these foods that throw our hormones off. All right. If you're doing all those things and sauna and things like that, and some of these things are very basic and don't cost much, right? Your hormone levels don't have to change. I'm in my 50s and I have the exact same amount of functionality, right, that I had when I was in my 20s. All right. My testosterone is fine. My athletic performance is fine. My endurance is fine. My strength, sometimes I'm stronger now than I was 10 years ago. I don't know if I'm quite as strong as I was when I was in my 20s, but once again, some of the lifts I was doing in my 20s, I just don't do it now because it's like, well, why would I want to do that? But I am convinced that if I really wanted to, there's not a big drop off in my strength in the last almost 30 years. And that is because of consistency and protecting my hormonal balance.
So, what are some of these endocrine disruptors that you mentioned? Are we talking sugar, toxins in our day to day?
Processed soy, just about everything that is processed has soy in it. All right, processed soy. So if you look at all your boxed and packaged stuff, take it out. All right. A lot of the pesticides that people are consuming, the additives in foods, if you remove those things from your body, you cleanse your body, you hit the sauna a couple times a week, make sure you're sweating these things out, drain out that lymphatic system, you will find a definite improvement in your overall health and well-being. But what are most people doing? They're going out to eat at restaurants, they're doing takeout, and when you're going to those places or getting foods from those places, right? They're not serving you the top quality of anything, because you have to remember their goal is to make a profit, not to keep you healthy.
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear, you're not saying never go out to eat. You're just saying maybe once a week if you want a date night or something with your partner. Because I think that one of the things that really gets people, especially this time of year, Titus, you know how it is. Everyone starts making new resolutions to lose weight. They don't get anywhere by February. They all, like, February is known as the most depressed month of the year. And then they're back in the rut that they were in the year before, right? And so I think that, for me, in some of the conversations that I've had with people, I'm very black and white. I don't live in gray anywhere. So for me, it's you either do it all or nothing. And I know that a lot of people are not like that. So it's not that they have to completely give it up, right? It's 80-20. Would you
Well,
say that you would say that?
here's what I would tell you. You know, everybody loves to say that they love themselves, right?
Mm,
And as a matter of fact, there's another one I did today that said everybody has goals and New Year's resolutions, and people are very, very keen on writing down their goals, right? And that's great, but I want you to take it a step further. When you write that goal down, underneath that goal, I want you to write down what you're willing to sacrifice to get that goal. Because a lot of times people want the goal. Yes, they want to lose weight. They want to look better. It's never a case that people don't want these things. The question is, are you willing? All right. And so when I'm talking to you about you living your true best life, you being in your true best health, you looking your best, you're feeling your best. And the first thing you say to me is, when can I go out and eat more of the poison that got me where I am? How often can I do that? Then the question is now, how willing are you? You know? How married are you to these destructive habits? Because the amount of sacrifice you're willing to make on that end will dictate how successful you are. So let's take, for instance, someone like me. I would say in the course of a 90-day period, right? You would be hard pressed to find me eating out or getting something from out more than twice. And if I did get something from out, in many instances, right, it's something that it's one day, that's it, and or it's something that is so easy to make it can't be tampered with.
Like steak and veggies? Is that
Well,
what you mean?
honestly, yeah. I mean, if I go out, I like going out and having a good steak. All right, so I'll go
Yeah,
and have steak and asparagus or something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
or I'll go out and if it's a good barbecue place, I'll enjoy some barbecue. And, the other day I went and I had a rack of ribs and some broccoli. Okay,
yeah.
so
I
I
mean,
went
look, eating out doesn't necessarily mean it has to be junk for sure, but
exactly.
it's that whole thing of socializing that I think that a lot of people feel like they might be missing out on because, it's such a big part of our culture, right?
It has been told to us that it's a big part of our culture, but is it really? Because the truth of the matter, I asked somebody this just the other day. I said, "You want to go out and eat, right? But are we going out to eat with friends, or are we going out to eat just us?" Because if we're going out to eat with friends, right? Let's assume you got 10 friends you want to go out to eat with. Well, wouldn't it be easier for y'all to just meet at somebody's house and you guys cook? I mean, economically, definitely. And then food quality and safety wise, you control what goes in the food. You can have a more lively conversation more than likely, right? And you come out with at about what 30 or 40% of the cost. But you see, a lot of times what happens to us is that we find ourselves doing things that the very same food companies, the very same entertainment companies have now conditioned you to believe that this is what it is to live. Okay? But if we go back 50 or 60 years ago, what did people do? People had family gatherings, they had family dinners. Friends came over on the weekend and they did potlucks and picnics and stuff like that. But all of a sudden now that has to happen at a restaurant with a white tablecloth where you get charged, 5 times the cost for a drink and 4 times the cost for a steak. The other day, I mean, I saw what is it, a tomahawk, right? And it was a 4 pound tomahawk, and a 4 pound tomahawk was like it was like $80 because it's like $21, $22 a pound. If I got that exact same steak at a steakhouse, that's over $300. Okay, and last I checked, I have an oven, I have seasonings, and if I in a short period of time I could have the exact same steak done for friends. It's one thing if you can't cook, but I can cook. And so the question is, why am I doing that now? Why exactly am I doing that?
I love that you've brought this up, Titus, because there really is something to be said for just even 30 years ago. I remember when I first moved to Australia, we did not go out as a family for breakfast. And now when you go out, you see so many families with kids out for breakfast, and the kids are eating peanut butter and toast, which literally be made at home. Um, and one of the things that I think that, is missing is that family, um, the community, the community coming together, families coming together, like you said, to each other's houses and actually enjoying their time. Whereas now it's like limited. You've got to move from the table. It's easy, and I get that a lot of people sometimes, don't want to have to cook, or they don't want to have to do all the cleaning up after because it's their house and it's just easier, and you don't have to spend as much time with people if you go out for breakfast. But, there's really something to be said for exactly what you just said. 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, I wasn't having breakfasts with my girlfriends at all. That's been like since I moved back from Canada. I was in Canada for 5 years. Since I moved back, it had just become a really big thing to go out for breakfast here.
Yeah, because people are programmed from watching things like Sex in the City.
Mm,
People don't
which is
understand. I
so
mean,
unrealistic.
it's called programming, and this you sound like a conspiracy theorist when you say this. It's called programming for a reason. We got accustomed to watching Sex in the City, the swanky girls out having drinks and eating here and doing this, and then you want to do that, okay? But the truth of the matter is, how much harder is it to make breakfast at home? I
It's
would,
so much better,
I
really.
would. Well, let's not even talk about the better, but like how much harder? Because for you to go out and eat
Mm.
breakfast, right? Think about the ordeal of picking your outfit, putting on your makeup and all that kind of stuff, getting there, right? In
Yeah.
between that time, you could have prepped pancakes. You could have made egg frittatas. You could have bought a reasonable bottle of champagne, made some fresh orange juice, had your own mimosas, bottomless, by the way. Okay. Okay. And each friend could make something. And the entire time you guys are having a blast while talking. But
Yeah.
we have now once again allowed ourselves to be programmed and conditioned to believe that breakfast at a swanky place is so much better than breakfast at home. And, you know, that's one of and I love the internet because the internet can be great for you or bad for you. Okay. And I remember I just saw a recipe today and I made it and you guys really have to try this. It's the easiest recipe ever. Not pecan, but pistachio ice cream.
Yum.
Pistachio ice cream. That sounds really involved, doesn't it?
I've never tried making ice cream, Titus. I've got no idea, idea what it
Let me
takes.
tell you how easy it was, right? Well, I'm
Okay.
lactose intolerant, right? And so I got cashew yogurt, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 1.5 cup of pistachios, and I added 4 scoops of plant-based protein to make it a protein. And man, it is literally that good.
What protein powder are you using?
I have my own brand, so it's just
Oh, that's right. Yes, because you've got the whole supplement line and stuff too,
yeah,
right?
it's a basic vanilla plant-based protein. I mean, you don't have to put that in there, but you can. And there you go.
Yeah, that does
Okay.
sound very easy.
Very easy. But think about it. You can literally do any flavor you want because just let your mind go left. You know, you, you can do any flavor you want. You can mix it up, okay?
Hmm.
And it's 100% healthy for you, right? There's not anything in it that you don't know. And right there. You can take the same yogurt and if I want to make a mango ice cream, I will put frozen mango chunks with a twist of lime. There you go.
All right. What are you going to say to the people who are like, I don't have time to make my own ice cream, Titus?
How much time do you think that took me? It will take you less time to
But
make
if you're doing that every meal, for every meal, making things from scratch and things like that, I'm
well,
just hearing all the mothers that I know being like, I don't have time for this.
well, let's think about that now because you have a thing of the yogurt, you have the bag of pistachios, yogurt, pistachios, tablespoon of vanilla blend. You're done. You're literally done.
Yeah, but there's the grocery shopping and then there's the washing up afterwards.
Okay.
Do you know
And,
what I
and
mean?
and is that grocery shopping, which nowadays has now been simplified because you see, we can use some of our modern conveniences like because here we have something called Instacart, right?
Okay. What's that?
So I can literally go on my phone, right? Show you. Go on my phone, choose what I want, hit purchase, right? And in 30 minutes, somebody brings it to my door.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's called Instacart. And so
Right.
the whole going to the grocery store, right? No, Instacart goes to Costco. They go to any grocery store you want. They'll pick up whatever you want and bring it right to your door. So the inconvenience of going to the grocery store, that's not a thing.
Right.
That's not a thing. Okay? And so, and you can get these things, you can do standard delivery where you can wait an hour or two and they bring it to you, or you can do rush. They can have it to you in 30 minutes.
That's cool. I wonder if we have anything like that here. I know we have Uber. Uber Eats does stuff like that for us. You can actually grocery shop on Uber Eats. I
Well, yeah,
think I've never ordered these things, but
yeah, a lot of these things have the same service, but it's the same thing. And
hmm,
so we use a lot of people are using the conveniences to have McDonald's delivered. Why don't you use the convenience for something that actually benefits you?
yeah,
And yeah, you make your ice cream, you put it in the freezer, you have it whenever you want. But you see the difference between my ice cream and the ice cream you got from the grocery store is that mine doesn't have all the chemicals. Mine has the
yeah.
exact flavor that I want because I did it. And mine's even healthy because I put some protein in it. And so if I'm thinking about a late night snack, right, pistachios is really good for you to consume at nighttime because it helps you sleep, right? So I can take a couple of scoops of pistachio ice cream because all it is yogurt, pistachio, and some vanilla and eat that with some protein. And that doesn't destroy my diet. It actually is really good for me. It's choices.
It is 100%. You're talking to someone who makes everything from scratch, but I also don't have children. So I find that a lot of people ask me or make the comments of, you don't have kids yet, you don't know. And I'm like, I've got 2 dogs. It's
Well,
hard
no,
enough.
the people who complain about you don't have kids yet, you don't know, right? What they've never seen the pleasure of, right? Show your 7-year-old how to make that ice cream.
Yeah.
They will ask to make their own ice cream every time because they will ask for the yogurt. They will make their strawberry ice cream. They'll make their this. They'll become inventive because believe it or not, right? Children are intrigued by things that they can do.
Mm.
It's just like a child who sits there and doodles, right? And they keep doing it. They love it. And so when you teach your child how to make pancakes, waffles, and stuff, once they pass a certain age, especially like 7 or 8, they actually want to make it themselves. They prefer to make it themselves. Okay? And especially
And
something
how
that's
wonderful for kids to be able to be
it's
experimenting in
awesome.
the kitchen. You're literally teaching them how to feed themselves.
You're teaching them a skill that's going to pay them for the rest of their lives. And it'll pay them in their health, and it will also save them a ton of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine a child going off to college that actually knows how to make their own pancakes and waffles.
They might be everybody's favorite person.
They will be everyone's favorite person.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you know how to make pancakes, literally, how long does it take to make a pancake? Like a whole 15 minutes? You can't get Uber Eats that fast.
No,
You can't.
no.
And you're definitely not going to get it for that cheap.
Let's talk about your supplement line because I'm curious as to how you got into having your own supplements and making your own protein powders and things like that. What inspired you to do that?
Well, when I first got on social media, like I said, I was very popular. I had supplement brands reaching out to me, and I partnered with one or two of them. And I was lucky enough to have conversations with the owner and to figure out, the actual game, what they were doing. And I found out that a lot of supplement companies were using as cheap material as they can because it was about profit. But when I really looked at the numbers, I said, but guys, you don't have to do that because you can still make a good quality product, right? And still make money. But then what's actually, you'll actually be helping people. But that just wasn't what it was. They were more on, and a lot of them in honesty, a lot of the companies were more selling more bodybuilding uh, um, supplements, and so I wanted to get more into health stuff. And when I reached out to a couple of the health companies, I found out that a lot of them once again were skimping on ingredients. The ingredients was not as pure, and so I had this quote. And I said, a lot of times we're sitting there waiting for an opportunity to come to us, where in actuality, the opportunity is waiting for you to create it. And so I looked at it and I said, you know what? Since I'm not having as much success getting on with these companies, right, and getting them to change their minds, why don't you just make it yourself? Because the people who are buying the supplements, they're buying it because you recommended it. What if you were the one who actually owned the supplements? And then you could actually listen to your followers and create the supplements that they want and need, that they're asking for, to actually serve their needs. And so that's what I did. And so when you look at some of the supplements I've created, one of my favorite ones, the complete minerals, right? We know that a lot of people have mineral deficiencies. Well, the complete minerals has been a rock star of a supplement because people take that and literally they feel a difference in a matter of a week because the dosage is right, the ingredients are quality, right? And it works. Who actually ever tells you that they feel a difference from taking a multivitamin? No one. They take it because you know what? That's what people have always done. They spend their 25, 26 bucks. They get a bunch of influencers to come out there and show them taking the multivitamin gummy and stuff like that. But what is the metric? Because when people do the complete minerals, we see things like their blood pressure stabilizing. We see things like their blood sugar levels getting better. We see things like their inflammation markers, their sleep, all these things getting better, measurably better within a 30-day period. Whoever says that about their multivitamin? And so that's why I created my own line.
Knowing all the things that you know now about health, about wellness, about yourself, what advice would you give to your younger self?
To my younger self, the only advice I would give to my younger self is I wish I knew what I know now, that I would have been able to save my mother. But that being said, I'm a realistic person. I understand life. And how life worked out is that my loss became the people that follows me gain. Because had I not experienced that loss, it would not have pushed me in the direction that I am in. And so I would say saddened that it had to happen that way, but I'm grateful that I was able to recognize um, the need and start going down that rabbit hole. So there's actually not a whole lot I would say to my younger self, because the mistakes that I've made have made me who I am. That's part of manhood, is making mistakes. But like the quote says, wisest is the man who profits from his mistakes. And I would say that my
Mm.
mistakes that I've made, I'm not perfect, but I have done my best to profit from all my mistakes. And that's the best you can do. And the only way to do that is acknowledge that you made the mistake first off, and then you can, devise a means where you can literally, like I said, profit from it.
This is a perfect opportunity for me to ask you this then, because you just said something about, you know, um, manhood. And I would love to know, Titus, what you are most proud of, what you love most about being the man that you are today.
What I love most about being the man that I am today is that I am well intended. Okay. My dad had a quote. He said, "The true mark of a gentleman is someone who has put more into the world than he has taken out." And so if I were to die today, right, I would know and die with a smile, knowing that I have done the best I could, and I have literally impacted the lives of people that I will never meet, that that have never done anything from me, because that's really what it's all about. You're not much of a person if you only impact the lives of people who you know, your family, your kids. Okay, that's great. Don't get me wrong, but what did you what did you put into the world? You know, what is your contribution? When you pass through the world, what can you show somebody as evidence and proof to justify your having the ability to be here? Because that's your value. And a lot of times people misunderstand the value of a man in their money, in the cars, in the things. And I laugh. I said, most of the time people do not actually quantify a person's value until they're dead, because that's when the money doesn't matter. That's when the houses don't matter. That's when the cars and all those things don't matter. What matters now is the impact. How did you impact somebody's life? How is somebody, or how is the world better because you were there? And if for unfortunately for a lot of people, the answer is the world is not. You will not
Yeah.
be missed. Even the people who you are close to, that you did everything for, within 30 days or so, they've moved on. But if you did live an exemplary life, an impactful life, my father died 38 years ago. But guess what? Even today he lives, because now you don't even know his name, but somehow some of the words he said, that he breathed life into me, I've put it
Yeah.
into you, so he lives on. And that's what life is all about. That's what manhood, in my opinion, is all about. Because that's
I
value.
love that. I've been sitting here thinking, your dad sounds so cool. All these quotes he's got, like he sounds like a really, someone I would want to sit with and just sponge off. He sounds so wise, you know.
My dad was hilarious, and my dad had he was quiet, but he had these one-liners that when he said it, it just put everything in perspective. You know,
Yeah,
my dad, my
I
dad
love
used
that.
to, my dad used to, my dad said something to me. My dad said, "You know what type of Sunday you're gonna have on Saturday?"
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, he says, "If you don't like what Saturday's looking like, you need to do some work. Because if you don't,
yeah.
Sunday's gonna look the same."
I love that. I'm going to be writing all these little quotes down when I go through and finish up this episode. I'm literally going to make a note of all these quotes because you're right. They're these one-liners that put everything into perspective. And I mean, this conversation has been so valuable, and I know that everyone who's been listening was probably thinking the same. If they're anything like me, just to be able to have that like inspiration. Just those sometimes you just need that one line inspiration to just remind you and put you back on track and remind you what your North Star is. And thank you for sharing that with us all today. I would love for you to please share with the listeners where they can find you, how they can work with you. Do you work with people globally?
Yeah, people can book a consultation with me. It doesn't matter where you are. TITUSUnlimited.com is my website. You can book a consultation there. I can work with you on your whatever it is that you need, whether it's life coaching and or health, doesn't matter. And yeah,
Amazing. If you are interested in connecting with Titus, I will include in the episode description and across socials links and ways you can do that. So if you haven't already, head on over to Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube and follow the Skin I'm In podcast to be the first to know when new episodes drop. Titus, thank you so much for being a guest on the Skin I'm In podcast.
thank you for having me, Chanel. Have a fantastic day, and thank you guys for listening.
Growing up and in the culture that I'm from, our happiest and saddest moments always involved food. Families would gather around the dining table of usually their grandparents' house every Sunday, sometimes every Friday, and eat a meal together. That's what we did. We went to my mother's house, and we always ate barbecue together, or, my grandmother would make something. Absolutely no one bought food, though, with them. No, it's just never a thing. And my grandmother made everything herself from scratch, and she would usually even start from the day before. Sometimes my auntie would help her, my mum would help her when we got there on the day. Then I remember we would all sit down and there'd be a whole spread on the table. It was a lot of food. There was a lot of us, but there was still a lot of food, and a lot of effort went into making food for everybody on that Sunday. And that was just something that we did. And then once everyone finished eating, all the women in the family gathered in the kitchen to wash up and prepare for dessert, coffee, and tea, depending on who was over. And then again, all the women would pack up the plates, washed and tidied. It was always the women. It was fun as a kid to help because, you got to hear all the gossip and you wanted to be one of the big girls. And now that I think of that as an adult, I would think to myself, who lets their guests wash dishes in their home? I certainly do not. It's different when my family's over because we're just used to doing that. That's just something we've always done. But to have my in-laws over or my friends over and have them clear the table and wash dishes with me, no, I don't think so. And to bring food, no. I'd rather just make everything myself. The other thing I remember from those weekends were that you didn't get to eat what you wanted. You ate what you were given. And if you didn't, you went hungry. So when I think of hosting people for a meal in my home, I can't help but feel overwhelmed to cater for the dietary needs and wants of others, especially that I am one of those people when I come to your home. 95% of the food that I make and the ingredients I buy are organic. I would not consume beef or lamb if it's not organic, pasture raised, and grass fed, and I don't eat chicken. So that really limits people when I come over. Only on rare occasions would I let it slide in terms of eating beef or lamb. But with the introduction of Bovaer to our cattle, whatever that new thing is, the additive that they're giving Australian cattle, and they have been overseas, I would not be allowing even on those rare occasions anymore. There is no way I'm eating beef or lamb anymore if I don't know where that meat is from and if it's not organic. With all that said, I'd rather just visit for a tea and a chinwag, to be honest, if I'm coming over to your house. I'm happy to make food, but when I go over to other people's houses, I find I get really anxious because I don't know what they've made and I don't know where they've gotten it from. So I do get anxious, I'm not going to lie. So while I get what Titus is saying about having people over, being more cost effective and friends coming together and bringing something each, it's a nice idea. But the convenience of going to a restaurant where everyone can order whatever they want and then having someone else do the dishes is a really nice treat for me. I cook multiple meals a day, almost 7 days a week. And I love cooking. I absolutely love cooking. I make everything from scratch. I make my own recipes a lot of the time. I love following cookbooks. So I love cooking, and yet I still find it exhausting because there is that element of having to go grocery shopping, find fresh produce, and then you're going to have to prepare everything, and then you're going to clean up afterwards, and then there's tidying, and then there's all those dishes. It is a lot. So I'm conflicted about Titus suggesting to have friends over for a meal versus going out. And I also get what he's saying because who I am is someone who orders responsibly. When I do go out, I don't see it as a problem, I guess, in my situations. I rarely get indulgent when I go out for dinner even. The other thing is that my husband and I love trying Southeast Asian cuisines. I cannot and will not cook Asian food at home. So I can't see myself giving up trying different cuisines or a monthly brunch with a girlfriend when I'm really responsible with what I order. If you find, though, that you can't help but order the thing on the menu that's not very healthy, or that you go out multiple times a week and things like pasta, bread, fries, and desserts, burgers, if all of these things are a norm for you, maybe cutting down how often you go out to eat or order in is the right move for you. And if you don't want to do that, perhaps start ordering the healthier options on the menu and get clarity on what actually is healthier. Just because it's a salad doesn't mean it's healthy. Oftentimes, salads come with bottled salad dressings full of sugar and all sorts of preservatives and additives. So you will need to get comfortable being the person who asks for the salad with no dressing, just olive oil and maybe balsamic vinegar on the side. If you want to get healthy, everything counts. And the most important part of that is gaining clarity on what is in your food. down to the dressing on your salad or the gravy on your steak. I'd just opt for no sauce in these instances because who knows, that gravy is probably out of a grey box and that's just filthy. As someone who loves running, specifically sprinting, I'd mentioned I was a 100-meter sprint champion in the last episode. I gave myself an inner high five when I heard Titus suggest that sprinting is a great way to build strength for women. It's inspired me to do the exercises that I probably should have done about 6 months ago that the osteopath gave me to build the strength I lost in my ankle after the fall I had last year that cost me a grade 2 tear. My ankle hasn't been the same since, and it's a great source of sadness for me as a runner to not be able to run. The thing that sticks out the most for me from this episode is how Titus explained the industries who profit from our pain, our sickness, and our insecurities. This comes up time and time again when I talk to guests about healing and how our lives are designed to make us sick so that these companies can profit from our unwellness. They create the problem and then they sell a management system rather than a cure, because a management system means that you're a customer for life. A cure means, well, you're not a customer for life. Can you imagine for a moment what your world would look like if the lies you told yourself or the ones you believe without knowing they were lies to begin with, if those were removed from your life, the freedom you'd have, the wellness you'd experience? Nothing would be able to have power over you if you knew what was in your food, or anything in your life. If you knew that something was really not that good for you, it wouldn't be able to hold you hostage. You wouldn't feel like you have to do something because you care and value about what you put in your body, what you consume with your brain, who you interact with. All of these things are really important. We'd never feel stuck in life if we had that perspective. So I want to know what you believed to be true before you heard this episode and what you might now be questioning in your own life and ways in which you're trying to get healthy, and if it's inspired you to take action on that change. Comment below, send me a message on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you guys and to know what has changed for you since hearing this episode, because I know a lot's changed for me. With gratitude and grace, have a wonderful day.